ABC Company is a multinational corporation headquartered in the United States. The corporation operates by constructing, designing, creating, developing, and marketing electronic equipment. In addition, the firm sells computer software and other spare products. The headquarters in the corporation are in Cupertino, California. The firm has already established hundreds of branches around the country to market its items. It all started with 3 regular guys who dare to create new things. ABC is now the world's most valuable company. According to the trade statistic, ABC firm share reached a new height as its market value crossed 3 trillion, making it the most valuable company in the world. ABC Company is an international corporation, so it faces significant competition from mobile and computer communication technology services. The ABC firm is competing against other businesses, whether small or large, that have built a reputation of themselves and are well known. This is a significant risk that must be addressed to minimize its impact on ABC. For ABC Company, Samsung is the most competitive corporation to them. This paper will explore several approaches for risk management in relation to ABC's company business activities. There are 4 approaches that are the best for ABC firm, which is 4 trees, checklist, flowchart, and lastly physical inspection that will be discussed in this report. However, towards the conclusion of this report, we will identify one of the most appropriate approaches to be employed in this firm in order to maximize earnings while minimizing the effect of hazard that ABC's company will encounter.
Hi everyone, my name is Cikgu Nursaira binti Cikgu Haris, metric number 061041. I would like to talk about physical inspections. Firstly, checklists and reports are examples of the types of data needed to conduct and complete an inspection. A checklist can help with the definition of inspection rules, the monitoring of assessment operations, and the creation of an audit report. In the accompanying document, you will find sample checklists that you may use as a starting point for creating a list that is specific to your firm. Report inspections must be kept track of. Inspection documents show what's new. They also show which areas were the focus of a previous audit team and which areas were overlooked. Do not just repeat or copy previous inspection results. Use previous audited financial statements to help you identify issues and then verify to see if the recommendations were implemented. Secondly, ethical treatment of employees, individual rights, protection of the environment, and the cycle repeats are all values that Apple adheres to. Wherever they create products and provide services for Apple, suppliers must ensure workplace safety, promote equality of opportunity, operate higher standards of ethics, and utilize environmentally responsible methods. Apple required its suppliers to adhere to the values and standards of the Apple Supplier Code of Conduct, as well as all applicable laws and regulations. Lastly, supplier must perform periodic reviews of its operating activities and also the operational and production of structures of the supplier and half of it that is deliver services or commodities to Apple to ensure a compliance with all these codes and regulations. Accidents, diseases, and injuries are all the responsibility of supervisors. Executives have an advantage in safety inspections because of their familiarity with their persons, equipment, and environment. The team should tell the manager in charge before inspecting a sector or region, whereas if not, the supervisor will not be in on the review panel. The supervisor shouldn't act as a tour guide also. Pre-operation checks include inspection of new or altered equipment or processes. These are usually carried out following the closing of a workplace. Periodic inspections are scheduled assessments of the necessary elements of systems and devices that have a high risk of causing serious harm or sickness on a regular basis. Inspections are performed on a regular basis as part of routine service or risk evaluation. Qualified or competent personnel may be required by law or regulations to inspect specific kinds of equipment at specific points in the production lines at regular intervals. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Sulaika binti Zamzuri, metric number 059774. Next is checklist. The supplier must recognize and analyze possible emergency scenarios. Suppliers should establish and implement emergency plans and response processes for any circumstance that will minimize harm to life, the environment, and property. There are three divisions in these checklists, which are emergency planning, emergency preparedness facility requirements, and emergency equipment. There are 6 emergency plannings, such as emergency scenario. Based on its manufacturing processes, chemical consumption, utility functioning, and local geographic, geologic, and climatic factors, the supplier must identify and assess the possibility of various sorts of emergencies. Fire, explosion, flood, chemical leakage, power loss, and natural calamities are all potential emergency scenarios. Secondly, emergency response plan. Suppliers must have documented emergency response plan to meet predicted emergencies based on probable emergency scenarios. Thirdly, emergency procedure. When an emergency scenario arises, the supplier must adhere to the processes outlined in its emergency response plan. Next, emergency response team. At each site, the supplier must arrange and assign trained staff to establish an emergency response team, ERT, which must be accessible throughout all working shifts. The ERT is responsible for directing the supplier's reaction to crisis in order to preserve workers' health and safety, the environment, and property. Other than that, suppliers should have reliable and effective internal and external communication procedures in place for the notice of crisis and subsequent evacuation of all individuals in the facility. The communication system must be heard across the institution. Suppliers must also create and maintain the ability to alert the surrounding community, the public authorities, and authorized government agencies in any emergency scenarios, such as the discharge of toxins into the environment or chemical spills. Lastly, evacuation and assembly. In an emergency circumstance where the workers' health and safety may be jeopardized, the supplier must promptly leave its facilities. Evacuations must be carried out under the supervision of approved trained people who must lead workers to clearly defined safe assembly places. Workers must not return to previously dangerous areas until the emergency situation has been handled and the facility has been pronounced safe by the proper authorities or other qualified and authorized individuals. Next, second checklist is emergency preparedness facility requirements. There are 6 facility requirements, such as aisles, emergency exits and exit signs, evacuation map, assembly area, elevator, and firewalls. Lastly, the third division in checklist is emergency equipment. There are 5 equipments, which are emergency lighting, firefighting equipment, shutdown devices, chemical spillage equipment, and first aid equipment.
The flowchart of Apple supply chain have 5 processes. The first one is research and development. Process number 2 is concept testing, third pre-launch, fourth launch, and the last one is quarterly review. Research and development, R&D. The R&D cycle often begins with ideation and theorizing, followed by research and exploration. Innovation is often ripe at this stage, along with risk. Launching new offerings or improving existing ones is a way for business to stay competitive. It is an essential function for many businesses. Team R&D develop new technology in product apples and acquire licensing of intellectual property and third business parties. Concept testing. After developing the product, the company will test the product from a different perspective. For example, conduct product in market research and conduct product testing. Concept testing also assembles the cost data before launching the product and identifies the potential for quality defects so that the company can adjust the product to what is less. The next process is pre-launch. Company will do preparation for or preliminary to the launch of their new product. They will manage production ramp issues, provide software for new products, manage material purchase commitments, and provide proper inventory levels.
Besides, the company will determine the launch quantity and how many units they want to sell. If demand is higher, the company will raise the order and will make prepayments to the supplier. Next process is launch. The product will launch after doing testing and pre-launch. When the product launches, the company will resolve the backlogs. The customer can make a demand forecast for up to 150 days. Last but not least, quarterly review. Shareholder company meeting to review inventory level, then adjust the demand forecast and check the product life cycle status. The company will update new product development status and monitor current sales level and component costs. Thank you.
Next, I will talk about fault tree. Fault tree analysis is a top-down deductive failure analysis method that combines low-level events with Boolean logic to examine undesirable situations in a system. Fault tree analysis is mostly used in the disciplines of safety and reliability engineering to better understand the causes of system failures and determine the best strategy to decrease risk or confirm the frequency of a certain safety event or system failure. It is because the structure of the smartphone is small but complicated and is easily impacted by the disassembly process environment. ABC Company applies the fault tree analysis approach to do quantitative and qualitative evaluations of smartphone disassembly failures. The randomness of the test findings will be ensured by the range of smartphone models sent for recycling. As a result, the fault tree analysis method is used to conduct quantitative and qualitative evaluations of smartphone disassembly failures. To strengthen the management and control of the failure, the qualitative analysis of the fault tree is to use the minimal cut set to determine the most basic cause that influence the top event failure. The fundamental issue with this technique is that the causes of smartphone disassembly failures are hazy, imprecise, and random, influenced by both environmental and human variables. Furthermore, estimating probability solely on the first-hand experience of disassembly staff leads to a lack of theoretical foundation for the quantitative analysis. Fuzzy sets are required in the quantitative analysis of fault trees to convert expert language into fuzzy numbers to acquire the essential membership functions. To complete the ultimate bottom event failure probability calculation, the judgment language set is replaced with a mixture of triangular fuzzy numbers and trapezoidal fuzzy numbers pairs with chance fuzzy multiple attribute decision making. A fault tree can be qualitatively analyzed in two ways. The descending technique looks for the event set from top to bottom, starting at the bottom and working its way up. Meanwhile, the ascending technique is based on the assumption that the failure probability of the top event may be derived from the failure probability of the bottom event.
As a risk manager in this ABC company, we want only the best risk management technique to be chosen. To solve a risk in the business world is a difficult task. Companies must have specific technique in place to help identify and reduce the risk pressure that will be encountered. Studies in this world have revealed that no single technique can determine the appropriate risk. This is due to the fact that a company is a business that will face a variety of risks. As a result, the company must select the best technique from among those available. The top of ABC company has agreed on the recommendation of the risk manager in their company to choose the checklist as the company risk techniques. Checklist serve as a source of risk information. As a result, you must avoid misunderstanding and truly prepare. When the ABC company implement this technique for the first time, We check every operational corner of the company's activities to ensure that no risk is missed that is not on the checklist. The reason why risk managers choose this strategy is, as we know, this company frequently launch its latest item in a short period of time. They are able to record more rapidly and effectively while identifying danger with this approach. Furthermore, the expense of using this technology is inexpensive. Lastly, it can make it easier for officials to compare this on a regular basis, whether on an annual or unit basis.